6:30, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Call Mitch.
Alphon. Here. Dr. Melhouse. Here. Dr. Nystrom.
Here.
Stephen.
Yes.
Richard.
Here. Okay, recognition of visitors, Julie.
Okay, so we're actually going to go ahead and start with our Franklin students so that they can go ahead and share what they'd like to share with us first, and then we'll move on to the other visitors that we have with us too. So.
Or do you need our tables?
They're gonna, yep, they're gonna use a little bit of your table.
Okay. Sure.
You can have my seat if you want it.
Do they need it? See, Hi. Hi. Okay. Pay attention.
Good.
Attention.
Right, well, good evening. Thanks for having us. We're gonna have a little kind of a two-part presentation tonight. So we appreciate you moving these guys. They have busy schedules and some of them had left practice early or getting to practice late. So we appreciate you letting them go first. So we are going to let them introduce themselves, and then Mrs. Bureau is going to tell you a little bit about the project. We felt like what better way to show you what we have going on in Franklin than bringing some of our students and having them explain to you what the projects that they're working on. So they're going to introduce themselves, and Mrs. Burial is going to tell you a little bit about the project, and they're going to take a few minutes then to explain individually the projects that they designed. Go ahead, Addison.
My name is Addison.
You're the teacher.
My teacher's name is
Okay, don't tell me. I already know you.
Jen, my teacher is my name is Chloe, my teacher's Miss Scott. My name is Ashland, and my teacher's Miss Vivian. My name is Corey, and I'm in Mrs. Plattner's. My name is Lily, and I'm in Mrs.
We are awfully excited to be here. Franklin Elementary is one of 12 elementary schools in the state that is working with the Governor's STEM Council. And so we are a computer science school. And we, for the last 3 years, we have been getting familiar with computer science standards at the elementary level and piloting lessons from now to the end of the school year. We're actually going to be embedding some computer science with in the general ed classrooms as well. So far, we've been doing a lot of piloting during tech time and library STEM and some art classes, which is really exciting. So a recent tech time challenge that I gave to these students was to consider the needs of someone that did not have the ability to speak, and to design an adaptive device using the technology that we had been learning about. And so they were challenged to create a button that would speak for a person who had such challenges. And it involves an engineering component to design and put the button together. And of course, troubleshooting, testing, redesigning, troubleshooting again, which some of us were still doing 10 minutes ago, right? And then of course, the circuit work that they will explain, and then the coding portion on their Chromebooks. So, all right.
Make sure to ask them questions as they're presenting. They're excited to answer any questions that you have. All right.
Okay.
You're on.
Hi, Mrs.
There, okay.
And
So what does the button
so
do?
button. So
What
this
does
is for
yours do?
people. My buttons to go to the bathroom if someone they can't.
Oh, okay, so how does it?
We chose this button because it was for. And it was bathroom.
Okay,
Um.
can I hear it? I mean, does it talk then?
To go to the bathroom.
Oh my gosh, you
I heard it
guys,
say
that's
it.
wonderful.
That's my record.
Is it?
So like box, it comes with two electrical cords, including this
That
one.
was supposed to be, what was it supposed to be?
This is the Makey Makey.
Say that.
And it is a
Let me,
There's many.
How did the coding
circuit
side go? What did you have to do for that?
And we only know about this part. We don't really know much about mathematics.
Was this a program on your computer?
This main part that makes it work. Alligator clip. This is also an alligator clip. Talking about the planet Earth, which is a tin foil on the butt.
That passes,
Gray one.
that passes the test then?
And then you
Oh,
connect
wow, okay.
this red to the computer.
Your on there,
And
Or,
make your own
so it can
recording.
record on the tinfoil. I need to go to the.
And so
So the
it's very easy to hear. It's
Connected.
That's pretty cool.
I need to go to the
How many of these things have you made?
connect the circuit by pushing the button down.
And that's, is this all your coding then? All your,
show you that after him.
Where's the coding?
He's not.
Have you ever seen
okay.
This is the Earth. This alligator clip connects to the Earth. This case connect, and we have nothing to the arrows or the click. All this happens, so then it will
This is
stay.
really interesting.
Sounds good. Want to go into computers now?
Okay, so Addie's gonna tell me about coding.
I will after. So coding part.
Sorry, Jed.
Grab to go to
Here,
Max Junior.
careful, Miss standing behind you. So if you ever answer that question properly.
Besides check time.
And make
Touching.
this
She like you.
for Wednesday's key press. Dance or art. And then.
Okay, I think I've heard my grandson,
Went to the butthole and got
but I didn't know that was.
play recording.
It's thirsty because.
Oh, he's
really
like
have to
10th
survive.
Oh, I thought I knew.
Well, you know some of my nephews.
What's his name? Okay. You click.
So how long did it take you to?
Which then record
Tommy,
a message. Yes, I know. Then it will say something when you press
But
the
your designer is that
like, and then if you and I'll say it.
common one.
You want to press the button.
and your person that needs help with.
You haven't put the hot city on?
Yeah, so like inspired.
So do you think, when do you think that's gonna come in the most?
You can understand. And I have a different sitting around. So my mom used to work with and Alice. They have nothing. Had this board and say any words
So do you
and
guys
she
use this for
couldn't
different
talk.
things then?
Here.
So we
Yes.
or
Did you make
if
the
they're
switch?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. When I was a teacher, I had some students who had what was
so we took
language boards. They had to point to me.
Outside and then the.
This is so much better
kind of covered and
because it's like they're really talking to.
you can
Yeah.
and then you put the when space click and then the sound.
Talking.
Oh,
But
wow.
since the space
Okay.
connected to this, which goes all the way through to the make
Really enjoy.
which through to this, which goes through to this, which next to the button, which makes the button.
Everyone here for.
Computer basically powers all the making. So then
Sounds good.
we also
All right, fourth graders, give you about a minute to finish up, okay?
Yes,
It is really,
Last thing.
this.
I always like it when little kids technology that
Wow, nice.
You have to connect, then you can learn more.
because I learn more. Yeah.
Didn't take going.
Board on board on board.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you
Okay.
connect this.
Really, Jed, it didn't take you very long.
No, it didn't take us long. 3 days. Because we used like a box that was already connected, so
Positive and negative charge.
it's out because it was hanging and then we had to. Tinfoil to say it. Because doesn't matter where you put the alligator or which alligator clip.
She said she was.
Because like you have to cut
Adding.
earth and
Call my daughters.
enough of it
They're able to answer than I am.
really through.
Okay.
And so
Fun.
yeah.
I can tell. Did
Enjoy
you?
technology.
Did you?
But metal touches metal, and metal is like a frequency of like energy that sends it to
Pretty
something
cool.
like something going on.
Study electronic. Very good.
You can take that home then?
Yeah, it's very tight.
What stuff I use? Hard is this top of it?
Looks just like that. And
And
How many things did you learn? 10 things?
All right, fourth graders, when you're done, head on back over here for this.
Okay, well, thank you, Sandy. Go ahead.
The next one.
Thank you very much.
That's a good idea.
Love you guys.
What's that?
And especially you all have been involved in the portrait of graduate work that we've been doing, but a lot of those skills that we've been talking about, or of course, at least several of those skills we've been talking about were involved in this project. They worked in groups. So there's the collaboration, there's the critical thinking and problem solving, there's the perseverance because they didn't always work right the first time. And Mrs. Spiro is really good because, they'll say, oh, this is working. And she'll say, huh, do differently. And so instead of like, oh, well, you should do this. So they're having to figure it out themselves. So we appreciate these guys being here. Really appreciate your parents for taking time out of your busy evenings to bring them up here and present. So thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate it. Great job. They don't have.
Yeah.
They all want
They'll be pressing 9 for it, but.
Yeah, right. That's a good.
I'm bored.
That was, yeah.
That's cool.
Can't believe they're fourth grade. Oh, Chad, he's so nice.
You what?
Chad.
Should have made that the last one.
Yeah, that was great. Really neat.
Okay, so the next presentation, I need our future staff to come on up, along with, I need our entire staff to come on up. We have a Doors Award that we would very much like to give to Lori Cunningham. But I'm going to let Kim share just some of the many reasons why we wanted to honor Lori tonight. So.
She's crying.
Yeah.
We surprised her,
Yeah.
obviously. First off, I'd like to thank Mr. Johnson for allowing Lori Cunningham to come to Futures from the high school. Since day one, when she walked into Futures, she just glowed. The kids took to her right away. And I remember within 2 weeks, she said to me, she goes, I have a purpose. And when I say that, I still get goosebumps. And I remember going home and saying that to my partner. And she got teary-eyed when she's, and I will never forget that. And the kids took to her just like that, and we call her LC for short because they
Yeah.
Lori Cunningham. And you just hear it throughout the building from day one, LC. So she's in a great mood as soon as I walk in, morning. And she takes to those kids and the kids are yelling at her through town and everything. And she helps those kids every second. And she's brought great ideas and everything to Futures. And she's done a wonderful job. And I thought she needed Doors Award when she was over here at the high school, just from what I saw when I would come over here and visit. So you add.
Everything good.
No, you got more stuff. Because we did this together.
Mhm.
We kind of knew, because we worked with her in the pantry, because she volunteers in the food pantry. So we kind of had a feel of how she worked and how dedicated she was and everything too from that. So we knew we were getting somebody good.
Always goes above and beyond, does not like to just sit. So,
Lori, that's what the Doors Award is about, is people like you that go above and beyond. So we just want to share our appreciation to you
Thank you.
and for you for everything you're doing for our kids.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
we told her we had to give a speech about,
Yeah.
oh, we're on the docks. They forgot about us. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and we do have one more. We wanted to do some winter activities recognition. Mr. Collins, so oftentimes we'll have our winter activities, students and families come. There are a couple of reasons why we're doing it this way. Mainly because the students that we're honoring, the vast majority are in activities tonight, in matches and games and et cetera. And we also had a pretty full house. So we're going to go ahead and recognize them though at the board table because we want to make sure that we're honoring the students' achievements for both athletics and activities.
Yes, as Ms. Treppa said, we want to make sure that we acknowledge the achievements not only of our teams, but also individuals that had, great participation and achieved some milestones this winter. Obviously, this is the nicest night that we've had this spring, so we're able to take advantage of it and don't have things canceled. So, what's nice about it is a lot of these kids are involved in spring activities too. So busy and, a lot to ask of them to come and take a night, but definitely want to acknowledge them. And we have a lot. So something we want to transition into and continue to invite our kids back when we can do that. First of all, as many of you know, our conference is very competitive when it comes to athletics. And so when we have kids acknowledged as all conference, it's a pretty big deal for us and for our coaches to acknowledge that. For boys basketball, Colby Dotzler was honorable mention. Second as a senior, second team all conference, Evan Bain, and first team all conference junior, Nathaniel Winter. So congratulations to those kids on an excellent basketball season. For our girls team, we had an honorable mention all conference member as a senior. Emmy Lewis represented the Toreadors for our girls basketball team. For boys swimming, we have kind of a made up conference for competition that really provides us an excellent experience for our kids, the North Central Swim Conference. That meet was in Grinnell at the end of January. We had a few that were acknowledged as all conference. Aiden Kraft, a senior for us, second team all conference in the 500 freestyle. And for those of you that don't know how far that is, many of us would probably drown if we tried. 500 is a long way. So for Aiden, that's great. Honorable mention all conference in the 100 free. Warren Williams, who's a freshman. And then we had honorable mention all conference 400 free relay, which included Ethan Lautzenheiser, say that right? Yeah, from Madrid, along with Warren Williams, Aiden Kraft, and Henry Van Dyke, who are Boone students. So congratulations to those kids. I know Coach Mann is really excited about the youth coming up in that program as well. For wrestling, in our conference, as well as in our district, it's very competitive and really fun to watch some of our kids. We had a great senior group with a lot of leadership there. Ty Salverson was second team all conference and district champ at 132. He also went on to the state tournament and finished fifth in his weight class in the 3A, which in wrestling, we compete at the highest level, 3A. Dylan Postotnik, another senior, was district runner-up, second team all conference, state qualifier at 170. And then Hector Garcia at 285, another senior, second team all conference and district champ. Our district meet was at Fort Dodge. So against Ankeny Centennial, Fort Dodge, some big boys. So kids did really well and represented themselves awesome. We also had two state finishers in girls wrestling, which we'll talk about a little bit later tonight. The Coaches Association puts on their state meet at the Extreme Center in Coralville. Anna Sundahl at 135 was fourth place, and Clara Carpenter at 220 was fourth place for our girls. So a great showing for them as we transition into a new sanctioned sport. Some of our activities, which we haven't had an opportunity to acknowledge too, for orchestra, Jacqueline Fuentes and Owen Schneider both made the Iowa Honors Junior Orchestra, which is a big deal. I believe that's for underclassmen. And then for all-state orchestra, Grace Van Rokel. So a wonderful honor for her representing our orchestra program at the all-state level. For speech, we're fortunate enough to have a really large speech program and a lot of kids involved. And so when we reflect back on our speech, it's nice to go back and see some of those kids that compete at state. At the state level for qualifiers for group, we had ensemble acting, which was called Between Good and Evil, which included seniors Caitlin Albert and Jason Prazak, along with junior Sierra Sherry. So that trio of ensemble acting made the state qualifier for group speech, as well as our one-act play of Romeo and Juliet, which included Alex Cunningham, Caitlin Shadorn, Allie Hunter, Colin Holman, and Maddie Smith. So we had 2 groups that made it to the state level. We had several individuals, and I was fortunate enough, along with Mr. Johnson, to see some of these kids perform at Urbandale and on to Ankeny Centennial for state. And that was Chloe Davidson Germain for solo musical theater, Allie Hunter for acting, Maddie Morris for poetry prose, Jason Prazak for improvisation, Logan Shear for spontaneous speaking, Clara Carpenter for acting, Dayton Morris for poetry and storytelling, Colin Holman, acting improvisation, Delaney Anderson, original oratory, Cassie Molitor, after dinner, Cyan Morris, original oratory, and Emma Westfall for poetry. So that's a long list of those that earned Division I ratings and went on to state to be able to perform again at Centennial. And we had 2 all-state performances that represented Boone High School at UNI just a couple weeks ago, and that's Emma Westfall, freshman, poetry for her performance of Just Breathe, and Logan Shear, a senior, for spontaneous speaking. So it's been a great winter for us, and thank you for allowing me to share those kids with you. We'll be able to do that and acknowledge them individually and through social media as well. So
Good.
thank you.
Thank you very much for all you do.
Anything else for recognition? Okay, consideration of the agenda, anything to add or change?
Nope.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Hearing of delegations, is there anybody who would like to address the board? Nope. Okay, under routine business.
A move to approve routine consent agenda.
I
Second.
have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to number 1. It is 6:52. We'll go ahead and open a public hearing for fiscal year 23 budget. Julie or Mitch?
Yeah, so last month we did present the budget, and just a reminder that our tax rate will be going down by 32 cents. But this is the hearing for the budget for next year. So this is opportunity for the public to make any comments.
And we had no written comments or anything, so.
Are you online, Mitch?
Nope.
All right, at 6:53, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. I believe this is an action item, right?
Yep.
I move to approve the FY23 budget.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions? It's a roll call.
Doesn't have to be, but we can.
Let's roll call these public hearings.
Althon,
Yes.
Dr. Melhouse. Yes. Dr. Nystrom,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes. Okay, 6:53, we'll go ahead and open a public hearing for fiscal year 22 budget amendment.
So this is something that we do every year, is amend the budget within this fiscal year. And the items were highlighted for instructional support services, non-instructional programs, and other expenditures in last month's meeting, as well as is highlighted on the screen in front of you. If you have any questions, which can share with you
Yeah, as you
that
know,
answer.
these budget numbers were set a year ago, and we didn't know what happened 2 months from now back then. We still don't even know what's going to happen 2 months from now. So it's just amending for additional costs, our ESSER dollars, and then the teacher retention pay that we had, staff retention. So this is to cover those costs.
Again, this is just giving us the authority to spend the
Right.
money that we already have. So we
Yep.
are not asking for more money. We're asking for the authority to spend it.
Any comments to report, Mitch?
No comments.
Questions from the board? All right, it's 6:54, so we'll close the public hearing, and I would entertain a
I'll
motion.
move to approve the fiscal year 22 amendment, public amendment as presented.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Further questions? Roll call, please, Mitch.
Alphon,
Yes.
Dr. Melhouse. Yes. Dr. Nystrom,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes. Okay, so it's 6:55. We'll go ahead and open our last public hearing for flexibility account.
So this hearing is to be able to expend funds from the district's flexibility account to maintain lower class sizes at the first grade level and to add another work-based learning coordinator for the secondary level. And these funds in the amount of $100,000 were unexpended and unobligated from the statewide voluntary preschool program.
We've done this in the years past to help us with added teacher costs. We'll have the funding in our preschool, so that's why we bring this forward.
Any comments on this one, Mitch?
No comments.
Questions from the board? Okay, it's 6:56. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve the expenditure from the flexibility account.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Mitch, roll, or any further questions? Hearing none. Mitch, roll call, please.
Alphon,
Yes.
Dr. Melhouse. Yes. Dr. Nystrom,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, on to number 4, tenfold presentation.
Yes, so we have representatives from Tenfold. If you recall, a few months back, we had asked for permission to have them provide us with some preliminary design work to try and look at how we might redo our activities entrance and restrooms. It's kind of like your house. When you start renovating, you realize what else needs to be done. So they are here to share with us just some very high level kinds of ideas for designing, and what we need to hear from you as a board is after this presentation, how you'd like us to proceed. So we will let them share with you and we'll have you ask questions and things like that.
My name's Alicia Wilkinson and I'm representing Tenfold Architecture and Engineering. So some of your faces I recognize, so good to see you tonight. We're excited to present what we've been working on with the team for the Blue Community School District activities entrance and restroom schematic design. So I'll just quickly go through the design goals that the school had that we worked to meet, which we'll show you in some additional slides with imagery for the concepts for the space. First of all, we had to update the signage, the branding and logos throughout the space. Wayfinding, which includes how do you navigate to get to, where's the auditorium? How do we find that? The pool, the gym, the restrooms, so they're easier to find for people. As well as thinking about the awards and trophies, including the fine arts, athletics, reduce the quantity as it pertains to the trophies and the trophy cases when you first enter, to reduce those so people are able to focus more on the main ones, and then we can digitally incorporate the other trophies in the system that you guys have already started using. Lighting in the cases was another element, and then team photos is another item that we found a home for, a way to have team photos in the space. The ticket counter, and you'll see what I'm talking about when we get there. Tour-door merchandise, concession stand aesthetics, so how the design would look, how that would appear, and restroom design. And just to give you another, was said, this is a really high level design, it's schematic design. And what that is the first step in the design process. And if your team was decided to move forward with this, there would be some room for modifications if it falls within the scope of what we're working on. And that would start with the next phase of the process, which is design development. Here's some floor plans of the space. So is this better if I just point with my hand instead of the clicker? Okay. So the angled entrance here, just so you get a grip of where we're at here, this is the scope of the work coming down this hallway, the entrance into the Auditorium, there's a couple entrances there. The concession stand, another entrance to the auditorium, and then the entrances into the gym and restrooms, as well as down to the pool. So that's a floor plan. Now this is a reflected ceiling plan. So if you were like looking at the space and the ceiling was showing, it's like how it would be. But here we have this element, and we'll show it in the next image, that runs through, it's a light track that runs through all of this hallway where we want people to go that are coming, that are visitors going to these different events within the space. So it kind of tells you like, this is the hallway you're supposed to be in. So subliminally keeps them out of the other hallways, places we don't necessarily want visitors to go. And it creates a cool lighting, exciting element to the space. Next slide. So this is an entry view. As you enter here, there's some bench seating along the windows. We've modified that differently from what it is right now, but it'd still be like in the same positioning. And we modified, so we've got moon corridors here in the font that is the logo font, as well as this side here has a ticket counter right there. So when people come in, they can purchase tickets to go to the events. But there's also a television screen behind that, just like there is on this side. And the purpose of those is for additional awards, or you could have the game showing. It could be a lot of different multi-purpose things. But each of these, there's trophy cases here. They're a little different than before, but a similar location. And it allows for a little bit more of a condensed amount to be in there, like I talked about before. And arts could be on one side, and then athletics on the other. And it doesn't necessarily matter which side. We wouldn't have the names up there in a future next step. We also incorporated the logo on the floor here. And then as you can see, this track element that leads you down the hallway to the next destination. And right here, that is the auditorium entrance. So we played that up a bit, gave it some drama. And this right here, these three wood looking elements, that's just to show you that it's a black stained wood that would be on the entrance, just to elevate the look of that a little bit, of the arts and the drama piece. And you can see here and here, those have that material, so you can identify that those are the entrances to the auditorium. Next slide, as you continue down the hallway, the track leads you down. And this is a concession stand with, on the front counter, we had this cool curved element here, which is also mimicked here as well. And it could have a lighting element on it. And then off to the side here, this could be a place where it'd be more of, this isn't like exactly what we would do. It's just an idea, a representation, but it could be for merchandising and to be a mobile sort of unit that you can put away. And it kind of blocks people from going down the hallway that we don't necessarily want them to go down. Then we added bench seating next to the awards wall here. And it's really hard to see in this image, but it would be easier to see in real life or on a printout. But this lets you know that the pool is down this way here. One other thing, if someone's standing here who is a visitor who hasn't been there before, they're able to see like this entrance to the gym. We have visitor written here and it's green. And then over here, it's green, the entrance, and it says home. So it clearly identifies where to go. And then the restrooms have like a gray color as well as signage up here that also indicate restroom signage. So we catch people depending on the direction they're going, so they know exactly where to go. This is just a quick image of, on the top right, a couple other images of what the mural could look like on here. So again, high level design, there's room for modifications. Examples of a mobile part that could house merchandise. Be stored away very easily with wheels on it. This, as we go down the hallway further, we see the track lights above here. And this is the awards area that you currently have, and then the bench there This wall has all the team photos on it. So we're able to fit every single team in that larger size. I think it's the size that's currently the team photos are in now, but then there's a monitor for additional sports things that aren't on the wall like more permanently. And these,
So those would be your current teams up there?
yeah, yep, good question. And just to show you a little further, like it's a frame system that would open up really easily, so you could switch them out pretty simply. And then the restrooms is another part of the design. Actually, let me back up 1 second here. I don't have that in the view, but when you get to the pool entrance, there would also be some signage there at that entrance to indicate that that's an entry point as well. And then the restrooms, we've went ahead and did this whole entire counter. That's a quartz material that's really durable. And then we've got tile along this whole back wall and the wing walls here. So it would be tile here as well. A white subway tile and lights with, or excuse me, mirrors with lights on the side, which kind of harkens back to the lights on the edge of the concession stand curve and potentially a light on the ticket counter as well. And then on the back wall of the restrooms, it would be a red tile that's similar in size to this and pattern. It just give you a nice pop of color in the space. And then next.
So before she goes into the cost opinion, one of the things that we wanted to mention is kind of how we envision paying for something like this would be through SAVE funds, or we could also use PEPAL as needed, but SAVE is our primary idea. The earliest we would be able to do anything like this, even if you were to say tonight, yes, move forward, would be next summer. So this is a ways out. I mean, that's just the reality of it all.
Summer 2023.
Summer 23. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. And again, these are high level costs before we have done the fine tuning. So now you can go forward.
All right, moving forward here. So high level costs, I'm just gonna run through these and, there's still, if you move forward, there'd be other elements of the design process. And along that process, other cost opinions would be done, especially after the design is developed more, because we're not at a point where you can actually know what's to draw on construction drawings to have it built. So there's a lot in there to be done before. So general conditions is $25,000. The main entry, so if we just did the entry area, it's about $144,255. The concession area, $36,000. Corridors, $88,700. Just the pool wayfinding would be $11,500. And then restrooms broken out by themselves is $76,000. And a design contingency, $76,291. And that brings a total to $457,746 plus a 5% construction contingency, because we don't really know what's going to happen with construction and still things could flux and change throughout. Lots of things, even we've seen through the pandemic. And then our temple architecture design fees would be $59,500, and that includes design development, which is the next step I talked about at the beginning of the presentation. And then construction drawings and contract administration. So, or like seeing the design through. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. The thing that is missing here is academics. And when we bring someone in, one of the things we want to have is something for academics. Many years ago, when we did our last remodel, one of the concerns was the academic, there's an academic hall of fame that we give to students every year. And those students' pictures stayed up for 10 years' time. Whereas all the athletes, their pictures stayed up for eternity. And so that was one of the reasons why we brought in the computer system you see on that east wall by the auditorium. was athletics and academics all combined into one. And now I see you saying athletics, I don't see anything about academics. You know, you go into other schools, you see them, they'll have something like Nevada. I remember going over there a few years ago for school board association meeting. They had the pictures of their graduates who've been accepted into military academies, that type of thing, or their equivalent academic wall of fame people. So I think we need to get back to that. Recognize that this school is more than just churning out athletes in the arts. It's about academics too. And I'd like to see that. Athletics, academics and arts are something else. Other than, and then those pictures too should probably include maybe pictures of our, I would assume be pictures of our choir, that type of thing. Maybe the National Honor Society having a picture there. Those are the type of things I'd like to see put into this if we're going to do it.
I think a lot of the screens was the reason you saw so many monitors is that very thing, so that we would be able to designate that. Like this could be for, like you said, if choir or whatever it might be. Because I think we have the digital next to the static frames. And then we have the two digital TVs also on either side of the trophy cases, in addition to our digital one that we have. So there's a lot of digital, but so that's something we could examine as well. Because I would agree with you that, I mean, our primary purpose is academics. So I think that's something that could easily be done into that design as well, but.
Are you back here? Are we still able to update that system that we have? We're updating that right now. That system staying close. Okay, thank you.
And I forgot to mention that there's a screen here as well, which could have any sort of content on it that, but yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
I like a lot of the others. Looks good. We definitely need to update.
Question, no, this is silly, but in the bathrooms,
No, it's not.
is there a way to put electronic hand dryers right above the sink so you're not spreading water across as you go to get your hand paper towel? I mean, I know I've seen a lot of them that have had them right there underneath. You know, you can wash your hands and dry your hands right there, so you're not sprinkling water everywhere. And I think it would be a lot more beneficial, less slipping, less cleanup for the custodial staff, a lot of.
Slow things up though if you've got a lot of people who are trying to move through there.
Well, I don't know,
That's definitely something,
just a possibility.
if we were to move forward into design development, to think about those
Yeah.
comments and how,
Yeah, just
you know,
something
and
to
think about all the different factors too. You know, what you've mentioned, I'm sure there's more feedback than that we could take into consideration as well.
Okay.
Were you saying like how you kind of have, you know, the faucet here and then a dryer right next to it?
Like over it even,
Okay.
that you're not splattering any place, you know, I've even seen them where you wash and then you lift your hands right there, you know.
And we'd have to just.
They're fast dryers.
And the mirror has to go down a certain point for ADA.
Yeah.
So it'd have to be like kind of positioned, which we can work all that stuff out. And see if what's feasible.
Yep, just something, I don't know. Just
Yeah.
thought I'd mention it if you're going on to the next stage, something to think
But
about.
right now you're asking basically for $60,000 to get us a construction set through. I mean, you're asking us to commit to the next step, which is.
We're asking, do you want us to continue to move forward or not?
Which could be all or
All or
Or part of that
parts.
60 grand.
You could say, no, we only want you to work on this part, or yes, we'd like you to move forward with all of it. And then make the decision later, once it's been designed further as to which pieces you want to actually do. I mean, you wouldn't have to make that decision now, but we're at the point where we need to know whether we should move farther or not.
My opinion would be if we move forward at all, we should design the whole thing and then we can choose what we send to bid down the road. But I don't think it makes sense to design half of it and then have to go through that process again if we change our mind and want to.
The thing of it
The other
is,
half.
as Julie said, we're redoing everything else in that area. I think to not, the front would be not smart. The one thing about blocking that hall, North Hall, probably the north side gym is the band might have some problems trying to come in and out with that band and that type of thing, because they kind of go up and down that hallway some.
But committing to the next step doesn't commit us to construction.
Nope,
If things go awry,
no,
but we have to decide now if we want to move forward at all.
correct.
I like the idea, just from, I feel like when you do walk in that entrance, it's pretty, quite frank, blah. I mean, that's where you have people from other communities coming in. That's what they see for the most part as a visitor. Definitely like the way this looks. I mean, I love updating stuff and bringing things into this century, best as humanly possible. I would say, just as a fiscal responsibility side of stuff, I mean, between the HVAC and the gym and the futures and the early education building, I just don't want us to bite off more than we can chew. I understand this process is going to be at least a year down the road type things. I totally get that. I'm a little hesitant on the 5% contingency just based upon, we all know what happened here with some of our projects recently, and I'd be shocked if that comes in at that sad number. I'm not trying to say I'm against it here. I just want to make sure we're being smart about, is it the right time to do that, would be my comment. So love the design though, for sure.
Thank you.
Yes. I kind of think we need to move to the next step, at least spend enough money to know what we're looking at. We're a year out, but some of this stuff is going to take a while to get designed out, and the contract fees. Maybe we could put off 2 or 3 months time, but I think that to get the ball rolling so that summer of 2023, the day after graduation, they're able to start tearing into things, to have this all redone by the fall of 2023, at which time we're not only we're going to be opening up 2 new buildings, and we'll have the high school project all complete.
Yeah, when you talk about the corridors, and I look at these pictures, and I know they're ideas, but what, all the flooring is going to be replaced?
No, the flooring will remain.
It'll remain there,
It's
okay.
only the, and that's a good question, because I didn't cover that. It's only the entry mat
Okay,
that would be modified, right? Oh,
that,
I
yeah,
don't know what just happened. Yeah, just the entry mat would be modified
okay.
here, and then we put the logo on there for that branding.
That other floor would be really pricey to redo.
Yeah.
Terrazzo's really expensive and hard. And
And that's not
Yeah.
going anywhere.
yeah, so we'll do with the floor and dress
Yeah.
everything else up.
And then there would be another cost opinion, or cost opinion analysis too, at certain points during our design development and construction document process as well, to get more accurate numbers.
I will move to proceed with having Tenfold proceed with design development next stage. Come back to us within the next 90 days with an update, along with an update on the pricing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
Financially, that's a doable thing.
With saved dollars.
Okay.
Yep.
I believe you.
Maybe the design would save.
Yeah, so far we've been using Pebble for the design, but we can do either or.
Yeah.
And let me clarify, Brian, did you say in the next 90 days?
Yeah, would you like me to amend that to?
I just need to talk to another team member about the timeframe. With not.
I'll change that to a reasonable time period.
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you.
Who seconded it?
I did. I accept that friendly amendment.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor, aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, number 5, Franklin staff presentation.
So you got to see our students already, but Mr. Winter has some information to share with you as well. So I'm going to let him.
Going to be a hard act to follow.
I know.
As much energy as the last. So it's always an interesting question of tell us tell us what you're working on, because I always answer that in, well, we're continuing to work on the good things that we're doing and identifying what's least good and working on, how can we improve that, and things that we've identified that are going well, we're going to continue to do those things. So, I guess I would say I have some data to show you just as a comparison. We talked a little bit about it earlier in the year and we showed data. But just continuing our growth as a professional learning community at work, focusing our collaboration on the 4 essential questions of the professional learning community of what do we want our students to learn? How are we going to know if they've learned it? What do we do if they're not learning? What do we do if they already know it? And then really working on meeting the needs of all of our students through our multi-tier system of support. What does tier 2 look like for our students who need a little bit of extra time and support? What's tier 3 look like for our students who need a lot of extra time and support? And how can we make sure that we're providing those layers of support for them without pulling them out of the core instruction? This year, we've also worked pretty hard on, we're continuing to work on things like we implemented the comprehension toolkit, which are metacognitive strategies for reading comprehension a couple years ago. So we're still perfecting that and getting better at it. As we bring new teachers on, they're having to learn that and be coached up and figure that all out. Things like really great reading HD word program that we use for phonics instruction at 2nd grade, using it really at K2. Continue to work on that. And are seeing some good results with that. This year, we've also spent some time working on our math instruction with Annie Carpenter, specifically focused on the numeracy project, which really what we use that for mainly is identifying where our students have some gaps and holes in their content knowledge in math, and then using our math win time to one of two things: either give some more time and support in essential standards that have already been taught in that current grade level, but they're still needing a little bit more time and support in, or if there are some gaps in learning previously that were identified through the numeracy project, identifying those and filling those in, because those are likely causing some issues in learning the current grade level content. So spend a lot of time in that, getting coached by Annie, and then really just thinking a lot and talking a lot about how we're teaching math and getting away from presenting the standard algorithm and this is the recipe that you follow, and really working a lot on that number sense and understanding why do numbers work this way and patterns in numbers and skip counting and those kinds of things that we're finding that when you jump to just giving the students a standard algorithm, like a lot of us probably learned is, well, you borrow from the tens and then you break it apart and then you have 10 ones and you subtract there, and they can follow that recipe, but they may not understand how it works. So when they get to pre-algebra and algebra and geometry, that becomes a problem because they don't understand why they're doing that. They can follow the recipe, but they don't understand it. So Annie's been great for working with us and coaching our teams in that. And Laura Lee Baker, our instructional coach, has been great about, one of the things is there's kind of two parts. There's the teaching of the interventions once you've identified them, which is what our teachers really specialize in. But then there's also like the management of all the data after you do the assessment, and then kids are passing out of the skills, and then you have to identify the next skill, and then that kind of thing, and regrouping the kids based on that. It's kind of this ever-changing fluid process. So Laura Lee's worked really hard on developing a spreadsheet of how teachers identify they're doing progress monitoring as kids are mastering those skills. And as they do that, they jump up to the next level, and then they jump up to the next group. And anyway, it's been quite a bit of work, but things are going pretty well, we feel like. And then also recently we've spent some time focusing on writing. We've identified that we're a little bit, I don't know if we're all over the place, but we may not be consistent in our expectations of writing and what we expect our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders to be able to do, even within the grade level, and then from 2nd to 3rd to 4th. So recently our leadership team met and we talked about writing. We left with a homework assignment of we had to pick a topic, and everyone had to write a sample of what they thought a 1st grade would look like, a 2nd grade, a 3rd grade, and a 4th grade, where they split into 4th grade is where they kind of shift into a multi-paragraph essay. So brought those back, found out our leadership team was maybe a little bit all over the place. And so now we're taking some time to bring back some writing, some samples from kids, and our teams are working a lot on rubrics to score writing and what's a proficient writer look like, and how important is this part of writing compared to other parts, like clearly defined topic sentence is probably really important, whereas linking words and complex sentences are maybe a little bit less important at third grade, but you really, that topic sentence and then following the topic sentence is really important. So anyway, those are some of the things that we spent our time on in collaboration, along with, looking at our formative assessment data, looking at our summative assessment data, and those kinds of things. So I have a couple of things to show you, just kind of data comparisons. I think my staff would maybe tell you I'm maybe a little bit too into data, but I do kind of enjoy digging into it a little bit. So this is just a comparison of Franklin to the state. So this is the comparison of Franklin to the state, this top one, and this looks at 2019 to 2021. So if you look at this year, we have 2 grade levels, 3rd and 4th, and they're scored in math and English language arts. This is the percent proficient or advanced from Franklin in this category, and then you have the state right over here. You look at the difference. So we were above the state average in all 4 of those categories, which we're pretty proud of. Down here is 2019 to 2021, and remember there was no state assessment in 2020. So it shows the difference in scores in proficient and advanced. So for example, in 2019, our 3rd graders in English language arts were 59% proficient. 2021, they were 56% proficient. So you first present that data, and my 3rd grade team's upset, and they're, we've been working hard, upset, the data doesn't look good. So then, to give you a little bit of reference, though, you look at the state, it was 65% proficient in 2019 on the state assessment, 50% proficient in 2021. So it takes away the sting a little bit that you drop 3 percentage points in proficiency when you see the state drop 15 percentage points in proficiency. So we never want to drop, but when you look at relative to everyone else, that's not probably as bad as we first. Shouldn't say it's bad. That's not as disappointing as it first looked when we looked at it. So, so as you look through there, just a quick highlight. Like one of the things that we celebrate is that in the areas where the state dropped, we dropped less. So we went down also from 80 to 77% in 4th grade math. But when you look, the state went down 8 percentage points. And when areas where the state stayed the same or went up, we went up more. We increased more in those areas. So again, pretty proud of that. Mitch, if you switch to that next one. So then I just, you can go in there and look at any school in the state. And so I just did a comparison of elementary schools in Raccoon River Conference, and then at the bottom are a couple just close to us. And so just a little bit of demographic. So you have enrollment of each of these schools, grades that they had. So everybody there's all these different grade configurations, right? So some are K5 or K6, or some are 2, 3, 4. And then the free and reduced lunch percentage, the special education percentage in each of those districts, and at least what was reported on that site. And then the overall score that the schools are given. And then over here, the status, whether you met the targets, and if you didn't meet the targets. So for example, ADM intermediate didn't meet the targets in free and reduced lunch and students with IEPs. And then your school performance rating over on the right-hand side. So when you look at ours, a couple things to highlight. We're at 37.5% free and reduced lunch. I'm not sure, we've talked about this, I'm not sure being that we've done free breakfast and lunch for all students over the last 2 years. We're not really sure that that's an accurate percentage of our students that are living in poverty, just because the incentive for filling out the free and reduced lunch forms and qualifying for free and reduced lunch isn't really there anymore isn't there as much for sure, because we're doing free breakfast and lunch for everyone. So if you look historically at Boone, I know when I moved here for a decade, it's been 50% almost, like anywhere from 49.8 to 50.2 free and reduced lunch. And then it was like that for my first couple of years. And then in 2020, it dropped pretty significantly. So it'll be interesting to see if that doesn't continue, if that number goes back up. And then just highlighted that we have the highest special ed percentage in the Raccoon River elementary schools, and including these schools that are nearby to us, and our second in free and reduced lunch percentage, even with that significant drop only to Adams Elementary and Carroll. So, we have some challenges, I think demographically that we're dealing with, and we're pretty excited that despite those challenges that we feel like we're still doing pretty well. We maintained that commendable rating for the second year in a row. So now that I showed you all that data, I have one more to show you that is kind of interesting. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but so depending on the grade makeup of your school, your formula for determining your school performance rating is different. So Mitch, sorry, can you switch back to the last one real quick?
Second one?
The second one, yeah. So on this one, I have an asterisk which shows that no growth scores were calculated in the 2021 assessment. If you think back to 2019, one of the reasons that we had a pretty significant increase from 2018 to 2019 is because we really had high growth scores that year. And because we have third and fourth graders and there was no state assessment in 2020, we have no scores to compare for growth. So interestingly,
We didn't get credit for that.
what's that?
We didn't get credit for the growth scores like we
Right.
have historically.
And not only did we not get credit for it, but our other areas are more heavily weighted. So our achievement scores are more heavily weighted, if that makes sense. So also we get the conditions for learning survey in grades 3 through 12, but last year in 2021, now I've heard this is different this year, I can't confirm that, but the conditions for your scores and your conditions for learning survey, which basically is like how kids feel about school, is only calculated in grades 6 through 12. So, and our kids, we typically do really well in that because I feel like the majority of our kids enjoy going to school and feel like their teachers support them and feel good about the culture we have. So to not calculate those in there is interesting since we take the time to do it and get those scores. Anyway, so all right, Mitch, if you switch to that next one. So just as a comparison, this is the formula that they use that is used to calculate Franklin's score. So 10% participation, and that's consistent for everybody. You get 5% for math and 5% for English language arts. But our formula goes like this: 30% for achievement, 30% and 60% for proficiency, and then that's it. So 90% of our score basically is calculated on the achievement of our students or the proficiency level of our students. You look at Winterset Middle School, and I believe they're a 4-5-6 building. They're 10% for participation, which is the same, but their achievement is only 15.75. Their conditions for learning is 11.25. Their growth is 31.5, so almost a third of their score, and their proficiency then is 31.5. And then if you look at Ballard East, who is a pretty high performing school based on that chart on the ISAS scores, they're 10% participation, 18% achievement, and then 36% growth and 36% proficiency because they only went up to 5th grade. And so the conditions for learning was not calculated into their score. So just something to show you that although I like looking at those data scores, you have to kind of take them with a grain of salt, I think, because you're not always comparing the same thing. When you look at 90% of our score is that to determine that proficiency, the school performance rating is based on just the scores themselves, not how much growth your kids made, not how your kids feel about being in school and those kinds of things. Whereas you look down here and, 15, so maybe 50% of the score is based on the score that the students get. So, and that's not saying anything about those other schools or how they're doing. I just wanted to bring that to your attention that it's an interesting way of figuring out scores when you look at that data.
Well, the statistics are not necessarily what they would appear.
Because of our grade configuration, it takes us in and out of different categories, so.
You have to dig to find those though. You have to scroll way down at the bottom to find where the formula is for each of those. So yeah. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I would just say, looking at like that second slide that you had up on the, we don't have those numbers to compare for everything up there. It's just shows that the pandemic, how it's kind of affected, especially in those lower buildings and such, of not having those scores to compare where they're at. And there's so much work to be done yet still to get some of those students back up to the levels where they should be at, maybe, I guess, in some cases. But it's great to see positive numbers nonetheless and outperforming the state. So hats off to You guys at Franklin.
Pretty good about it.
Yeah, the first set of numbers look very good. We didn't have 2020 in there, but going from 19 to 21, those look very good. The fact that we went from just barely meeting
That one,
to,
sorry, Mitch, not the second one, first one.
yeah,
We were really close from whatever the next one up from commendable is in 2019. We were really close to that rating. And I feel pretty confident that if growth scores would have been calculated in again, I feel like we would have had a good chance of making it. So probably a little bit. Have a chance this year.
Were you surprised, were you guys surprised at the drop across the state, or did you kind of anticipate that with everything that was going on? Just curious.
It was hard to say. I didn't really know what to predict. I'm pretty surprised that there's a 15% change in third grade. Although I am and I'm not, because you think about, that's a really important time. I think, Autumn would tell you that the first graders that missed, March to the end of the year, their first grade year is really, really important. And those second graders who tested as third graders last year, who missed the last, third or so of their second grade year, which again, they're still forming those reading habits, they're still acquiring those skills just as emergent readers and becoming proficient. I think that, so I am surprised it was that much, but then again, when you really think about it, probably not.
Just hear learning loss a lot, but then when you see that minus 15 or you see these numbers, it seems a lot more real than when you just, when when people talk about it kind of casually.
Yeah. It'll be really interesting to see if that trend continues this year, and if it stays at that level, or if you see it start creeping back up again.
what's interesting is in fourth grade level, it's opposite. English went up a little bit and the math went down a little bit.
Yeah.
Not quite as dramatically, but there was some difference. And I'm not sure if that's where fourth grade is where we're starting to develop more executive level math scores that we missed there at the end of third grade and early fourth grade. I'm not an expert in that.
I suppose you could make an argument. I would say, I don't know, Autumn, what you think, but you kind of work on literacy all year long, kind of holistically, and math is more skill-based, where you work on this unit, and then you work on this unit, and you work on this unit. So you could probably make the argument that they missed some portions of math, like the whole thing. They didn't get much of it at all, whereas literacy, they missed a third of it, but they probably worked on some of those things. You're working on comprehension strategies all year long. You're working on decoding all year long. You're working on fluency all year long. Whereas math, they might have not done anything with fractions because that was all happening after spring break. We never came back after spring break. So that year's third graders didn't get any kind of a foundation in fractions. So now they're having to go to fourth grade, and the fourth grade teachers are having to teach them to add and subtract fractions, and they don't have any kind of basis to learn fractions. So they were definitely having to fill some of those gaps in, I think. So
On the last slide. There. Thanks, Mitch. The last
That one?
Yeah, there's no consistency at all. So you get to decide every school gets to decide what they're gonna put in the importance percentage, right? You got to
Don't decide.
that,
No.
Brad, at Franklin.
no, we don't
How
decide that. The state
The
decides.
state
that.
decides that, but it's
That's-
still in,
Your grade makeup at your school.
okay,
So because we didn't have sixth grade or above, or we didn't count.
you didn't,
It
okay,
was not counted.
I got it now.
Third and fourth grade, we had no growth scores.
yeah,
So if we had
And those-
third, fourth, fifth, we would have had growth scores because fifth grade would have taken it in 2019 as third graders.
okay, so if I would look at all middle schools, it would look, those categories would be similar. I mean, it just, there's no,
I would have to pull up.
you're not comparing the same types of things. In
Right.
my mind's eye, it just doesn't look like you are, so.
To get an accurate comparison, I would have to search for all of the buildings that have
Second, third, and fourth.
just third and fourth grade. And then look at their scores. That would be more accurate. It takes a long time to find which.
Who,
schools
yeah,
are-
who does this at the state level? Good grief.
The other thing I will share with
They
you
make
is,
that.
Mitch, sorry to keep having to switch back and forth, but you switch back to that first slide.
This one?
One of the things, and I've talked to Bill about this, so ISAS is kind of our I mean, we have our benchmark assessments and we have our formative assessments that obviously are really important, but this is kind of like one shot for our kids to kind of, that we can sort of, benchmark each year. And one thing that'd be really nice is the ELA score is a combination of your reading, your language arts, and your math. And there's your reading, your language arts, and your writing, and they're 3 separate tests. And it would be really nice to get a breakdown of that to see it would be really nice to have in math, for example, like how'd your kids score on fractions, how'd they score on measurement and data, how'd they score on algebraic operations and algebraic thinking. But I would even settle for if we could just get how they score on reading, how they score on English, how they score on math, how they score on writing. So then we would know, like, man, is our writing score really low? So then we need to put a lot more work into our writing. And is our reading score up here? So then we would know, okay, we're really on the right track in writing. Or maybe it's the opposite. I mean, we really have no idea because you don't get a breakdown of those 2 tests.
It's changed over the years then, because we used to be able to break it all apart.
Yeah. It's changed.
Didn't realize that.
So the individual report, there is a breakdown of that, but the only way to do that would be you'd have to go through each individual reports and average out the scores, and it would take a really long time. It would be nice to just have a by grade level, by building. And I think Jake's here. I think he would tell you he would like to even see his as by homeroom teacher, because that would tell him, like, I'm doing a really good job teaching geometry, but I might not be doing as good of a job teaching fractions, or and those are the things that you can inform what you're doing in the classroom as a teacher too, not just the achievement level of your students.
The test is supposed to help you do that.
Right.
Yeah. Change.
Any other questions for Brad?
Anything all about the student presentation? You feel, don't have any questions about that either? This is your shot.
They're pretty excited.
Yeah.
I just think that's a cool thing. I think Mr. Beardo does a fantastic job, I think, and it's just great to see excitement in kids. I still love that I have young kids in district, and it's just nice to still see kids super excited about stuff. And so that was an awesome presentation.
Thanks.
So.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
One of the other things they changed with the testing, just for an FYI, level this year, elementary level, is they made part of the testing for this year's ISAT adaptive. So part of it's going to be comparable, and part of it goes back to like the map testing, whereas you get them wrong, it changes the leveling of it based on you getting them right or wrong. So this year's test is going to be a combination of adaptive and standardized. So then there won't be comparables for some things.
For some
we
things,
had comparables in the past. So that's new this year also.
So what's the benefit with that? Do you know? Has anybody said what's the?
So I think that allows you that growth piece for each student, because no matter where they are, they don't ceiling out, they keep going.
Oh, that makes sense.
Seeing how that goes, we'll go that way with the rest of the test. And then we'll throw one of the subject areas in there too. But I know that's a change for us this year. I know we always like that math piece because we like to be able to see the growth, and sometimes that standardized comparison is nice, but sometimes doesn't recognize you if you had 11 percentile growth in an area. So sometimes it'd be nice to know.
Good times.
All right. On to number 6, girls wrestling. We have Brett.
I've got a couple of things to share with all of you. First of all, express my appreciation for your support as a board. We were one of just over 50 or so school districts to submit a letter of interest and support for the girls to sanction girls wrestling. And I know that's become really important to our program and some of the young ladies that are going to graduate. It's been a big part of their growth, not only for for being a student, but also a student athlete. So we had, as I shared earlier, had a couple, and we have taken our young ladies to the state tournament, which was at the Extreme Center, and they just recently came out with this week that center in Coralville will host the state tournament for the girls in their first sanctioned year at the end of January, or first week in February, I believe. But Up the last few years, the Iowa Wrestling Coaches Association has supplemented and supported this, and now it's kind of going to be transferred over to the sanctioning by the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union. That was announced at their state tournament in January, that they were moving in that direction. And one of the assistant directors, Aaron Kirtley, has been working on that with advisory groups and getting information out to us as school districts and athletic directors as far as what it look like and what the transition was. And so we as a district, we wanted to support that. And as things have come out, there's kind of the timeline from the Iowa Girls Athletic Union. Like I said, they just settled on a venue. It's kind of extended the season a little bit. And kind of had some information that started to trickle out. It'll be one classification just until things build up, kind of like what our swimming is based on schools and involvement. So there is option and encouragement to cooperative share with surrounding communities that maybe don't have the capacity that maybe we do with our youth club and have girls wanting participation. So that's a possibility. Right now, what it looks like for the numbers, we will have a couple girls, young ladies graduating, but we will inherit some from the middle school, moving up to the high school. So we had 7 that competed this year throughout their season in the state tournament. Well, 6, 1 was injured, but she was there with them. And so we hope to have 5 returning, 3 joining us from 8th grade. So we're looking at 8. And I have a feeling that with the attention that has been on the sport and the support that we've offered in our district, that we'll start seeing more and more numbers. And I know we're starting to see some at the youth club level as well. So it's something for those kids to look forward to and families to see, hey, that's something that I get to do. With that is kind of a tearing off from the boys program a little bit. And so although now isn't necessarily the time to go full bore into that, but we have talked about supporting, but I think it deserves its own attention and it's starting to think about that down the road. So right now we have that small group of young ladies participating. We'll probably still hold practices together, but it gives us the opportunity to maybe have practices independently or even practice with some of the middle school girls as well. So I think that's one of the things that we are asking is, can we look to move forward with adding a position as a girls head coach? Now that person going into this winter or this fall, when we start competing and start working, we'll still probably have some responsibilities as far as helping out in the room with our JV boys and as well as because we wouldn't have the depth of girls, we'll probably still have to practice together a little bit, but gradually kind of move into their own program, which I know we have the space to do as we look into our I'm going to say this wrong, ISAP, our home facility. Thank you. To be able to have practices in both venues, which I know will help our growing youth club as well, if we need to do that. So there are some points in reasoning for that, for why we asked that. Kind of the plan is to look to some of those surrounding communities, Ogden, Madrid, to see if there is options to pull some of those kids in. Middle school will stay kind of their own, it's collaborative. They don't necessarily wrestle in duels, they wrestle in scramble tournaments. So we match up based on availability. If we go to a girls program at the high school, then you are making a determination that girls are going to wrestle girls and boys are going to wrestle boys. If you don't, and you want to keep girls as a part of your dual team, then you have to stay under the Iowa High School Athletic Association and girls will wrestle boys. So we're starting to make that shift of providing opportunities. Now, right now, I don't see it changing a whole lot because right now we send a lot of our girls to tournaments where our JV boys can also wrestle. They're just in different divisions on different mats. But we're going to start seeing the numbers where we're going to have to create kind of girls only tournaments as well. We're not there yet, but we host a tournament that is JV and girls, and we're successful in hosting it last year and plan to again, where one mat is dedicated to girls wrestling, another mat or another couple mats dedicated to JV boys. So we'll continue to do that, and I think that's the need as we start to go to those tournaments, is somebody's going to have to take those kids as well and supervise them. If that's another thing is the season is expanding for the girls. It isn't just from this point to this point. There's going to be more opportunities to take those kids to girls only tournaments and meets as well. We might not have enough to set up a duel with, say, DCG, but we might be able to set up something small with, say, Gilbert or somebody close where we can have, double-digit kids wrestling each other, which we can do if it's girls only. So those are some points that we put together, and things continue to roll out as far as expectations and the characteristics of the program. They're going to start with 15 weight classes, which I'm thinking, boy, that's a lot of, you're going to have a lot of kids to fill those weight classes. But I think it's also feeling it out and seeing what the safety limitations are and what's appropriate. And I think for our program right now, as we're working through some extra attention to that, as well as the focus of the program and wanting to continue to build that, I think that's a position that I would really like us to look at.
I think with Title 19 and Title 9, everything else, we need to continue to be the leader. And I would move that we move ahead with hiring a head girls wrestling coach position, creating a head girls wrestling coach position.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'd second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments?
Would that facilitate girls, just wrestling girls?
It would at the high school. Yep. So we may still practice some together, but as far as competition and us, with other schools, it would be just girls wrestling girls. Middle school would stay the same because we wouldn't split that program until we have the depth.
Well, University of Iowa just hired a full-time women's wrestling coach, collegiate level, and they're setting an example for national. I expect that probably spreading more in the next few years. So I think we need to be on the ground level here and support. It's a little bit of financial outlay to us, but it's coming on the next board item. But I just think we owe it to our girls. Yeah, tell them.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Brett. On to number 7, sports and special stipends.
He's
You're
staying.
going again.
Yeah, he's going again.
Along with girls wrestling, another one of our focuses of the last couple of years with our staff and in conversation is transition from the middle school to the high school. And I think a lot of that is comfort, familiarity. We have had a couple of pretty dedicated staff members that kind of took it under their wing that they wanted to offer strength and conditioning, speed and agility for middle school, not only to help them with their athletic ability, but also help transition them into the high school. Our weight room, the use of equipment, basics when it comes to agility, routines in the weight room. And so in addition to what Coach Eastland provides in the weight room, that helps kind of get them set for what they're going to see their freshman year. We had put this together in hopes that we would get to, 60 to 70 kids. We had 80 sign up and we had to lock it down there. And they pay a little bit of fee, which is nice because that can go into an account, and we have purchased weight room and agility equipment for those kids to use and have upgraded it. When it comes to mini hurdles, speed and agility bands that we've been able to purchase using that. But it's something that we want to continue to offer and even kind of expand that a little bit. Of course, it'll be a little wild, but probably be every other day, or they'd rotate back and forth between the middle school gym to do their speed and agility, and then come here at the weight room because, of course, our high school gym will be under construction, but it's really slick when they can split into 2 groups and go back and forth between the gym and the weight room. And again, it helps with that transition in, kids meeting others, they get to know a couple of our coaches, and help those kids out and provide them something to do during the summer months. So looking to expand that. What I am asking is for 2 small stipends for those men to keep doing that and offering that position. It's something that not only helps us with that transition, but it also helps us with weight room supervision in the summer months. Coach Eastland provides a lot of time and effort with our kids during the school year and in addition to the summer, but he also coaches baseball for us. So these 2 individuals help with off-season kids wanting to get into the weight room and more time options for kids that maybe work during the day, where Charlie can't necessarily be there because he's coaching baseball. He does a great job in the mornings with our in-season kids, our baseball kids, 8 through 12 now, as well as our softball team getting in there a couple times a week. but those off-season kids still, the flexibility of time this will help out with as well. And so asking for that, to put that in place to expand our middle school program and help out with the supervision in the weight room.
Was it volunteer based before?
Yeah, a little bit. It was more of, we know we need to do this. Let's get together, plan this out, offer it for our kids. And I think by the time, looking at the time spent there throughout our summer and the benefit that it's had, it's something that we want.
That was the first year. And there was 80 kids.
80.
That's awesome.
That's great.
I think it's a great program. I just ask that we make sure that our coaches are qualified, because when you're dealing with middle school athletes whose growth plates are still immature, especially on the guy's side, you can get tricky, and I'd hate to see us develop some overuse injuries from improper use of the weight room. I'm hoping that this program would have coaches who would be able to pick those things up and make sure that does not happen.
I think that's the plan, is if we're able to improve that, it's people that would be qualified, that are aware, that will get to know those kids or know those kids already. Again, wanting them to come in and know the proper technique, know how to utilize the equipment, and some of those routines that are expected when they're in ninth grade. So,
Yeah, there's differences in seventh grade than.
right.
Any other questions?
Jimmy, have people in mind maybe for this already, potentially?
Yes.
We should have asked it on that previous one we just approved too, but I assume.
And again, I think a lot of it speaks on the follow through that happened last summer, seeing that the dedication as well as the trustworthiness of those two individuals too. I think that this will be a really good program for our kids to get.
Now you've got trainer lined out there. Is that because we contract out for training services and that?
Yeah,
Done.
we were adding that in. We were adding it in and we said, well, we don't hire trainers. So we just crossed it out. So we contract with the hospital for that.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we'd entertain a motion.
I'm sorry, Dr. Milhouse, they would both have coaching licensure. So it'd be consistent with what our coaches are required to have in order to supervise our kids.
I'll move to approve the Schedule B. Or, I'm sorry, the Schedule A and Schedule B. Activities coaches.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 8, pool filter bids.
So we are in need of some pool filters, and we did reach out to 3 companies. I think Brian is here. Yep. Brian will come and share with you a little bit, but we did reach out to 3 companies, but we only had one put in a bid. But I'll let him walk through the different options and why the recommendation is coming to for the 85,000.
Yeah, so basically, pools in general is a pretty niche company that there's not a whole lot of companies out there that do this. AGCO is the only one that actually gave us a bid. They're the ones that have done all of our pool chemicals and maintenance in the past, things like that. The other companies either wouldn't answer, wouldn't call back, or were just not interested in the pool bid. Basically, what the situation we're in is the 2 sand filters, big sand filters, are cracking, leaking, getting worse pretty much by the month or so. So the $85,000 bid would be basically the same exact filters. With that would also be fixing all the pressure gauges that don't work, replumbing a lot of that doesn't make any sense. Basically getting it where it needs to be. The pool inspection, annual pool inspection, has been done in the school for about 4 or 5 years now that they need to be replaced. They're getting worse. It just doesn't seem like something we should wait on, because once those fail, the pool's done until they're replaced. So.
How old are they?
10,000, sorry.
How old are they?
AGCO was thinking originals for pool. So typically
15 to 20 years
is what you get out of so.
Now, we had
86.
many years ago a sand filter situation, but it's been a lot of years ago.
Couple of years.
It's 10.
Sure. So basically they've run their course and it's kind of time to replace it. So
Brian didn't really talk about not having swimming at one
Do you
time.
know on like
That's been
that
years
first option, the 110,000, the steel filter? I mean,
Yeah,
did you talk much about that? Did you ask them about
yeah, it's basically.
what the big difference of that's gonna, I mean,
It's a different casing, so you're probably gonna get 25 years of life out of it versus 20. And that also includes all the same plumbing, gauge replacements, things like that, so.
Jeremy, I assume with your expertise, you've kind of taken a look into this.
I'm not an expert on pools. I always get a little nervous when it says budget number.
Basically, the way they explained it to me is just depending on when we decide to do it. I did tell them it'd be for next year's budget, July 1. So depending on how things fluctuate in 2-3 months, as we know they can.
Okay. It's a Pepple thing, Mitch.
We'd look at where we're ending with Pepple, either that or save.
Okay.
Both project funds.
And this could be done before the swim team needs the facility on
Right.
August.
Tentatively would be July.
How long in the project are they?
5 days, maybe 6.
They don't anticipate problems with getting the materials, the filters themselves.
Which one are you recommending?
I would just do the like filter at 85,000. I don't know that 25,000 is more worth 5 more years. So,
it's a better value if you get the full 25 years out of it.
right.
I mean, if you break it down in that aspect, but I'll go with your recommendation though, if you feel like the 85,000 is the right one, so.
Any other questions?
I'd move to approve the ACCO pool filter bid for 85,000.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
One quick question regarding the pool. I mean, it's not really the filter, but the timing pads, is that something to be considered in the future?
Which thing? I'm sorry.
Timers, the timing. pads,
Timers.
They go out all the time?
I think we've been talking with Brett about it for a while, so
But I want to.
we'll report back.
Yeah,
That's not on the agenda. Quick question.
yeah. Don't know the answer to that. We'll come back with the answer.
Thank you.
All right, number 9 UE agreement.
Yes, so we reached agreement with the UE with 50 cents at the start of the year and 50 cents again on January 1, with a $250 base increase for the drivers and also 27 cents added to the activity driver rate. And that is what we're proposing that we approve.
UE already has ratified it, so.
I would say that Gene Sorson would like to bring apple cake
Yes.
to the next work session.
I move to accept the UE agreement.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. On to number 10, building project updates.
Yeah, so the projects have started. Our gym has even more daylight coming through right now as they prepare to lift the roof, and majority of the floor is gone. All of the bleachers are gone. The HVAC is staged at this point in the gym. And then we also have at our HSAP and Futures building, it is staked out, so you can kind of see where it's going to be. And they've taken out all the backstops and some signage has gone up. So that's where they are on those projects. We did have 2 change orders that I approved. Henkel, we had a credit of 1,068. There were less materials than planned for the project needed. So that was a great change order. With Edge, we did have $4,374 that we needed to do to reinforce a masonry wall that we were expecting to see some reinforcement on that did not have that. So that is a change order that I approved as well. So that's where we are.
Okay.
Not that I'm a pessimist or anything, but what are the plans as far as tomorrow with high winds? Having this west,
We are contacting them, yes.
I'm just a little bit nervous about.
So are we. Brian is reaching out to Edge to discuss what our plans are to avoid any potential wind damage that could occur with our current situation. So
Seems
we'll find out from them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
could be interesting. We'll see.
Yeah, we shall find out.
Any other questions on building projects?
Progress is great.
Mhm. Exciting.
Target?
Yep. Still on target.
All right, anything on your superintendent's report?
Yes, so we had a work session that was actually, it was a work session dedicated to goal setting that was scheduled for next Monday. The board has met frequently in the last month, and I would recommend that we move the work session to the May meeting, which is May 9th, I believe, and try to meet the work session prior to the regular board meeting to save on the number of times you're having to attend, as well as that fits well into the agenda for May as well with regard to our goal setting and then my evaluation that evening as well.
I will be in Savannah, Georgia at that meeting for the National Association for Career and Technical Education Information
Okay,
Conference. So
okay.
you can do it without me.
We can, or unless you want to zoom in, that's,
Zoom into.
that would work as well.
Whatever you would prefer. I was just thinking that you've spent a lot of time with special meetings this month. So I was just thinking that that would work well with the timing of other things. So we can keep it on the 18th, but I was just recommending that we might want to consider moving it.
We do anticipate a special meeting within the next week or two after we get an easement. And then to approve a change order for the elementary project. So that will be coming.
That'd be no problem.
Anything else?
Yes, second.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.